before I went into Vietnam. Let me see, I was 19 and
What year was it?
1969. I was doing the normal teenage stuff after I got out of high school, working a little bit, hanging out a little bit. You know, just the normal. But yeah, let's see. I guess I went in the Army. It was inevitable. So, that I ended up in the Army, it seemed like. What's that?
Were you kind of like encouraged that by going in the Army it was going to change your life, make your life better for the future?
No, not at all. No.
Why was it then? Did you get drafted?
I was drafted, but I went in about 2 months before my draft date. I volunteered for the draft, which is the same thing as being drafted. It was just, they put me in the Army about 2 months earlier.
Oh, so you joined up to get a better deal?
Yeah, I thought I might be able to get a better deal, but there was no better deal. You had to enlist in the Army to get any kind of deal at all, at least 3 or 4 years, which is a lot of time to do in the Army.
So did you know you were going to be going to Vietnam?
No, I didn't think I'd end up in. Well, there was probably 2 things that I didn't want when I went in the Army. One was to end up in the infantry, which I did, and the other one was to end up in Vietnam, which I did. So I didn't think I was going to have to go. I had almost a year in the Army before I came down on levy. So with only 2 years to do, I thought, I was feeling pretty good about it. But it was during the, I can't recall exactly what it had a lot to do with Nixon. What it was is when he started his first reduction of troops. So they stopped sending over, I guess, quite as many as they had been, and he reduced the troops level down, I believe by about 25% or something like that, maybe not quite that much, but it was a fair size reduction. But anyway, I ended up in the 1st of the 52nd 198th Infantry Echo Company. It was a little recon unit. There was very few of us, maybe 15 at the most, and we worked short missions. Maybe 5 days to 2 weeks at a time, and we'd work real quiet. And
what would you do?
We would, God, there were times when we went up in the mountains looking for elephants. There were rumors that they were using elephants to bring stuff down the Ho Chi Minh Trail, so we went up looking for elephants. And
elephants in Vietnam?
I didn't see any.
You saw any? Were there?
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know. But nothing really surprises me about some of the stuff that happened over there.
Well, mainly these were like search and destroy missions?
Some were...
Could you explain that, what that is?
Well, search and destroy was pretty... we had things where we would be... This would be... we'd be picked up at a fire base early in the morning by helicopters, and we would hit a village at the crack of dawn, and just sweep through it. And any military-aged male in the village we would pick up, and anybody that ran we'd shoot. Search and destroy is a little bit different than that. I was really never on what you would call search and destroy. We moved through a lot of villages, and I was pretty lucky with a lot of the people that I was in there with were pretty civilized. So we were able to move through villages without really doing a whole lot of damage unless something had happened to us. Or unless, like I say, we hit them in the morning like that. But, let's see, search and destroy. That was, something I really never experienced. A lot of our missions we walked off at night. I was up in the Central Highlands. It was about, I guess 100 miles south of the DMZ. And the company was based in Chulai.
The demilitarized zone. You said the DMZ.
Yeah, the demilitarized zone.
The zone between North and South.
And I worked on a fire base, LZ Stinson, which was inland about 15-20 minutes by air, by helicopter, and up in the foot of the mountains. And we worked a lot off of that, walked off and reconned around the fire base a lot. And then sometimes we would be shipped up into the mountains by helicopter. So it was, you never knew.
So did it make any sense to you what you were doing on these missions?
None at all.
What were you doing?
Trying to stay alive, trying to get home.
Well, what did they tell you were doing?
They didn't. They just told us we were going out and when we were coming in, and then
you'd go out and just march around? Hike around?
We would go out and just move through areas. Just move through.
Looking for Viet Cong?
I'm running into God knows what. We ran into a lot of, always a lot of booby traps. Sometimes NVA.
What's that?
North Vietnamese Regular Army. Most of the time it was just the villagers, the farmers, the VC.
So the villagers and farmers you call VC?
Mm-hmm.
Viet Cong?
Right.
Why? They're like revolutionaries?
Right, exactly. Well, yeah. Well, I guess they were revolutionaries, or they were sympathetic to the communist government.
Of the North?
Right, of the North.
So when you ran into the NVA, those were usually you'd exchange fire with them?
It all depended on, the situation. Sometimes it really wasn't smart to exchange fire.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So what would you do in that?
Call in artillery or airstrikes or something like that and just stand back.
Away.
Yeah. We were, like I say, we were small in number. And there were times when we ran into up at least to 100. It's a nightmare. It was a nightmare.
Were you close to the area of where My Lai was, what they called Pinkville?
Very. Very.
So what was your job on a daily basis when they'd send you out?
Oh, you would get up in the morning, and we'd usually have to move because if we made any noise, we didn't want anybody to know where we were, so we'd move and spend the whole day just humping through the jungle or through bush. And then we'd hump until it was time to stop and eat, and then we'd stop and eat and sleep and pull guard and get up in the morning and hump some more. Sometimes we'd set up an ambush, but it was just hump until somebody got hurt, and then dust them off and
What do you mean dust them off?
call in a helicopter, a medevac helicopter.
And pick up whoever was injured, and then you guys would hike back?
Yep.
So what about setting up an ambush? Did you ever ambush anybody down there?
I set up a few ambushes. I never had, lucky enough, never had anybody walk into them, but it was just a matter of finding a good spot where you thought somebody might walk along a trail, or I set up ambush in a valley the bottom of some mountains once. But it's just pretty much what it sounds like. Most of our ambushes were mechanical. Booby traps ourselves. We did a fair amount of that. We killed a lot of our own men with a lot of that too.
That's one of the things I noticed in film footage I've seen recently. They find most of the booby traps till to this day that they find are American.
Well, you have to understand too that almost all of the ammunition and the weapons that was used in that war by both sides was supplied by the United States in one way or another. In the area that I was in, there was a large number of American-made, or actually it was ammunition that was given to the South Vietnamese Army, and a lot of them were booby traps, bouncing betties, and mines. And anyway, they were overrun by the North, and they had to leave it.
What bouncing betty? What
Yeah, it's a landmine that bounces up in the air and explodes. It's so. But we encountered that real heavy was our own landmines and stuff like that, and everything that we dropped or left behind or threw away, they picked up and used against us. They were very resourceful, very dedicated, incredible people.
How did you get there? By plane or boat? Or plane?
18-hour plane ride from Oakland, or actually from Travis Air Force Base.
So did you see the country by air when you approached it?
We hit the coastline, and I don't remember if we circled or what, but he came in he dive bombed from high altitude straight down to he just came straight down out of the sky. And we were on the ground in just a matter of, seconds. And all of a sudden you were in Vietnam.
You didn't really get to see any scenery from the air, huh? So
Not from the plane.
You had an impression of what the
No.
country was?
No.
Or visually?
No, my first impression was, first thing I saw were these beautiful women working alongside the airstrip in these long hats and these silk gowns and stuff like that. And you're going down the runway, and you see these women working the rice fields along the road. It was pretty impressive. Then you get off the plane, and boom, the heat and the humidity hits you. It takes a good 3 months before you overcome that.
What did you think of the country as far as the land itself?
It was beautiful. Most of it. Most of the stuff that the military land that I was on was barren. It was just total soil, no vegetation at all. Everything there was, yeah, it was just sterile. But the jungle, the countrysides, and it was a beautiful country. The weather was great after you got used to it. Yeah, I would love to go back there. Yeah, I would. I could see opening up a business over there, dealing with these people.
Actually, an organization.
Yeah, there are several organizations. It's interesting. It's really hard to get this out of your system after all these years. You wonder why. I've talked to other friends that I was in Vietnam with, and I don't know if it's
part of your life there or something.
Definitely. It was such a high and exhilarating high. It was really incredible low. I mean, the depression made you into an old man. At 19, 20, 21, I turned 21 in Vietnam. But I felt an old man. I thought, God damn, I'm old. I'm tired of feeling sad.